I just finished watching Mufasa, The Lion King, and it definitely was not what I expected. There has been a lot of criticism about this film. Some have been excited for this prequel, while others have thought it's an unnecessary and boring addition to Disney's lineup. So I am happy to share my thoughts after seeing it on opening night. This movie explores the origin story of Mufasa and his rise to kinghood. It starts with him as a young cub who gets separated from his mother and father. He gets found by another cub, Taka, who saves him from alligators. Taka takes Mufasa back to his pride, but the king does not accept him and makes Mufasa stay with the female lions. Even though Taka and Mufasa get a little separated, they continue to grow their relationship as brothers, and we see that as they age. As an older lion, Mufasa is out hunting with his new mother-type figure Eshi, and they encounter a different pride who attacks them. Mufasa defends them off and kills one of them. Word gets back to that king of the other pride, and they set off for revenge. Mufasa and Eshi sense this, and so the king decides to have Mufasa and Taka run away to save his bloodline. So Mufasa and Taka embark on their new journey, growing their relationship and creating new relationships along the way. This is where they meet Sarabi, Rafiki, and Zazu. While overcoming certain challenges that they face, they grow their bond while also seeing other issues that start to arise. I don't want to spoil too much, so that's where I'm going to stop, but it is an exciting storyline that really gives the origin story of Mufasa. I think this movie does a really great job as a prequel to The Lion King, and it really gives Mufasa his characteristics that we have all come to know and love. We see where he builds his leadership, courage, and strength, and why his relationships are the way they are. The director Barry Jenkins does a great job in shaping this storyline while also staying true to the Lion King story. If you didn't really know any better, you would think he directed them both. I also thought that this movie did a much better job compared to the Lion King, giving the animals a lot more emotion through their animation. You could feel the hardships they were facing, such as jealousy, sadness, and anger. I know this was something that was criticized heavily with the first Lion King remake, so Mufasa did a much better job. Like I said before, the character development was amazing, which I feel it had to be being an origin story. You really saw the way Mufasa, Taka, aka Scar, Zazu, Rafiki, and Sarabi all became the characters they did for The Lion King. The motives that they each gave the characters really shaped their outcome. The dynamic characteristic given to Taka was very impressive, as he probably changed the most from start to finish. Even though his main reason for feeling betrayed by Mufasa was over a female, they really expressed his emotion, and you truly felt his reasons for why he became Scar. Another thing I loved while watching the movie was the score. The score was very nostalgic to the original Lion King and its first remake by subtly putting it in there, and it always feels good to have some nostalgia, especially because I grew up with The Lion King. I think there were a lot of positives with this movie. The character development, the storyline, adding in Timon and Pumbaa to have some of that humor, it just really nailed a good prequel. It had a great storyline that would end up building into The Lion King. Although I mostly liked this movie, there were some drawbacks. The first thing that I noticed that seemed a little off was the animation. I do think that they did a better job than the Lion King remake, but I still felt it could have been better. I get it probably is hard to add emotion into such photorealistic animations, but with the high value budget that they had, it just could have been better. The other thing I didn't love was the soundtrack. Maybe it's because I grew up with the Lion King, and as a kid, I grew up with that soundtrack. However, the songs were a bit confusing and not too clear, and quite frankly, they were just not very good. The songs did help build into the storyline, but they did not complement the movie's tone and were not very pleasing to listen to. This is pretty surprising though, because these songs by Lin-Manuel Miranda you thought would have been great with his background and resume, but I would much rather the original Lion King soundtrack with the songs by Elton John and Tim Rice. The last thing that I didn't love was how the feud between Mufasa and Scar came about. It was kind of the basic storyline of miscommunication over a girl, and one of the characters reacts out of hand. And I do feel Scar's reaction to what Mufasa did, which really wasn't anything, was pretty dramatic and not too realistic. So although the storyline helped build these characters and there were some cool things, it was still a pretty generic storyline. But overall, I did really like this movie, and I went and watched it with Fleeting Films, who also actually really liked this movie. I think since it has been made and it brings out the nostalgia feelings from the original Lion King, it is definitely worth a watch. But honestly, it is not one I would go rush to see, and I think it's worth waiting for it to come out on Disney+. This prequel doesn't really enrich this franchise, but I also don't think it really hinders it either. It is a nice and easy film to watch with some excitement, but nothing to go crazy about. Let me know if you've watched this film and what your thoughts are in comparison to The Lion King, and leave a comment on which movie I should review next.